Well, technology was not always an easy issue years ago, and I'm very happy, and that encourages me very much to continue that way. We have started that there was so much interest in technology issues here in from the delegation, from the parties. And I remember the first informal meeting on technology where we entered a big room where at least 120 seats were around the tables and a second row, and said, oh God, this is going to be a big room. Whether we're going to fill it with this discussion, I very much doubted it. And at the end it was not only the first row was full, but also the second row was, well, largely filling. Mm-hmm. So I think that is a good sign that there's a lot of interest, and we also have recognized that many of the key messages that have been provided by the Technology Executive Committee are reflected in the draft decisions of the COP. It's not everything is finished, but in particular the issue of the report of the tech. But this is mainly due to an issue that has been raised by some countries, namely intellectual property rights. And now we have to create an understanding that technology cooperation, technology transfer is not only an issue on IPR. IPR plays a role, definitely. But also we are hearing different voices from developing countries and developed countries where discussions need to bring loose ends together. And UNFCCC is a body which has not the, let's say, original authority to talk about IPR. There are others which have the mandate, but of course there's a need and a desire to talk about it, and so it needs to address somehow.
And in a sense, this is one of the fundamental tracks, because we're talking about implementation, and we're also talking about developing countries being able to build renewable energy systems. And if they don't have the technology, then we're stuck, aren't we, in the current kind of paradigm?
Yes, well, indeed. First of all, yes, we are getting more and more into an implementation paradigm. So not only talking about targets and whether we can achieve it and what it takes and what should be the threats, etc., what all could happen, but we start talking about how we're going to deal with it and what kind of nuts and bolts we are needing. So this kind of policy making, sometimes I'm hearing, is make it simple, but the reality is unfortunately not simple. You cannot, if you talk about how to build a mobile phone and I give you just a few wires and a battery and say, please build a simple mobile phone, nobody is capable of doing that job. So reality is complex, but we have to try to make it simple. But on the now I have. What was
we were talking both about implementation, why that's important, but also the fact that part of the role of the UNFCCC is to ensure that developing countries cut their emissions, or at least develop in a low carbon way. And it strikes me that this mechanism, or this committee at least, is one of its roles is to ensure that they gain access to those technologies. And do you sense that this, if everything gets agreed as it could do by the end of this week, how big an achievement will that be?
This agreement would be a big achievement because the technology mechanism consists actually of two branches. One is the technology arm, the policy arm. The other one is the implementation arm, which is then going to be the Climate Technology Center network, which is hopefully then is going to play a very important role. Networking is very important to bring the right people together to talk about the right things. So then coming to the question how you get, let's say, more, let's say, renewable energies into developing countries. When we talk about a solar cooker, a patent is not an issue. There are so many ways to build a solar cooker. You don't need to have a patent or blueprint, what have you. There are other technologies which are more complex. If we talk about wind power, if we talk about photovoltaics, Some countries even have bought the production plants from somewhere else and could produce photovoltaic PV panels. So we really have to look into it in a case-by-case basis. But it turns out that really training, joint R&D, capacity building, setting the environments right, so having really enabling environments is a key factor. Just providing blueprints of something that is patented and maybe cannot even be realized, could never be built, is not the solution. So we have to look in a regional, case-by-case basis on technology transfer. And we are not there yet as the tech, but it is in our mandate to have a closer look into it. But hopefully we can start very soon, maybe in a year's time.
And one last question. I mean, Germany is such a source of renewable technologies, both wind and solar. What are the, from a national point of view, putting on your sort of national hat, what are the opportunities for Germany if the world does finally manage to sort of make that transition to a low carbon economy? Because it strikes me you're already leading in a number of sectors. So is the whole technology market something that you are interested in seeing develop?
Well, markets are not only developing in Germany, and also production is not only developing in Germany. I mean, as we all know, China has become a big producer of wind power plants, of PV panels, and other equipment as well. So I would say it's not a question whether Germany is getting new markets. I think it's really an issue of developing models for cooperation, because local contents is very important, so that developing countries have a good chance to develop jobs, create jobs there. And what the final role of companies coming from various countries is, I think that's an open game of competition, and it's hard to say who will finally find.